Hey guys, and welcome. The God of War story, personally, is absolutely fantastic in the way that the developers link all of the pieces together in the end. When going through and reading some of the Norse mythology, you can seriously see the resemblance from what the developers have done and how they've even put their own spin on things, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. However, today, I wanted to focus on a part of the story which for me was a bit of a teaser for potentially what's to come in the next God of War game, or if they're doing DLC, potentially that as well, with rumours stating that the next God of War game will be situated outside of Norse mythology, and maybe somewhere else within the overall mythology universe. Could it be Egyptian mythology like God of War 2018 was originally going to be? Could it be based on another culture? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below what you think about that. However, today we're going to focus on the one thing that Odin was just super obsessed with from a young god up until, of course, this game, and that was the mask. To begin with, we'll have a little bit of a recap on the mask and what happened in the story and why it is so significant, and then discuss some possibilities for its return going into the next God of War game or even some DLC if they decide to do that, as I'm pretty sure that this will not be the end of the mask in the mainline God of War storyline. Of course, there are going to be some form of story spoilers throughout this video, so proceed further with your own risk, but do consider subscribing to the channel for more God of War story content coming if you're enjoying that, and why not leave a like. But without further ado, let's dive straight in. So firstly, I think it's right to briefly recap exactly what this mask is and why it's so important to the future of the God of War storyline, potentially. The first time we came across this mask, or we're told about it, is when Atreus visits Asgard for the first time. Odin takes him down to his basement below his log cabin, where it's there that we see a green crack floating just in thin air. It's here that Odin mentions that as a young god, he came across this crack and a small portion of a mask, in which he believes holds all knowledge of creation itself. This is the reason he specifically built his cabin right here, so he's at all times got access to it, and he's been obsessing over it ever since he found this mask, which was maybe hundreds or thousands of years prior to this point. Odin, though, is really sneaky and clever here during this part of the story, because ultimately he's using Atreus to get the remains of this mask, and in parallel making Atreus believe that Atreus is playing Odin, but really Odin is playing Atreus here. Odin gives a bit of a talk to Atreus and essentially tells him what he wants to hear and what he wants to hear in order to try and get Atreus to help him find this mask. Mortals always have their answers as to why they're here and what their purpose is, and how everything started for them. But us gods don't have that. Odin mentioned that he wants answers, to know the reasoning behind his purpose, to know why the gods are the way they are, why there's 9 realms, and why were they all created and how they were created. This is of course playing exactly into Atreus' hands, and to find out exactly what Atreus is trying to find out. Atreus, of course, throughout the story wants to know his purpose overall, who is the likes of Loki, what his overall meaning in life was, how to free the giants, who his mother really was, and why is he the one that needs to save the giants and Jotunheim. Atreus thought that he was using Odin to get his information, to use this knowledge crack in order to try and find things out. Really, Odin was just playing Atreus to have him finish and find the pieces to this mask, translate what is on there in order to go to these locations and find where the other pieces are. Of course, without the mask, it can cause serious bodily harm to look inside this crack, like Odin did from a young age. That's where he lost his right eye. So Odin sends Atreus on a series of missions to retrieve 2 remaining pieces of this mask. One of them was located in Muspelheim and the other one was in Niflheim. Odin needed someone to be able to translate the transcript on the mask, which held clues as to where the 2 pieces of the mask might have been held. Without Atreus, Odin would never have been able to locate these 2 missing pieces, so he was absolutely imperative to this, and that was the reason why Odin asked Atreus to come to Asgard in the beginning. Remember when Thor and Kratos were having that fight, Odin stayed behind and spoke with Atreus when they were in their log cabin. And ultimately this was the motivation for wanting to have him to come to Asgard. That was to try and piece together this mask for Odin's use, because without Atreus, this would never have been possible. On their final mission, the mask was complete and Odin came out of nowhere to take it from Atreus. However, around the same time, Sif, Thor's wife, also showed up telling the group of Kratos killing Heimdall. Thor squared up to Atreus at that time. However, he managed to escape using a one-time use teleportation crystal that Sindri gave him before he left to Asgard, taking the mask with him and ending up back at Brock and Sindri's house. Of course, this was around the time where we find out that Odin was disguised as Tyr all this time, and has essentially been one step ahead of us all of that time that we've been together. knowing exactly what we're going to do next, and this is of course the main reason why he's always been so calm about things. But towards the end of the game, the mask is fully formed, and Atreus is at the bottom of the lodge standing right in front of this crack with the fully glowing mask. Odin puts down his staff and says, "No more fighting," and wants Atreus to put on the mask and peer inside this knowledge crack and tell him what he sees. This is all that Odin has ever wanted since he's found the original piece of the mask all those years ago, with Kratos simply telling Atreus that he trusts him and that he should do what he thinks is right. Atreus decides to break the mask into 2 pieces, not 3 this time, which I thought was interesting, and the knowledge crack disappears with the mask going inside of it. This is of course where we hear more from Odin about what he wanted to do with the mask. Use it for himself and essentially take out all of the remaining gods across the 8 realms and rule everything for himself, to understand the meaning of things, to try and put a stop to Ragnarok, and go from there really. Now let's go into a bit of a theory time. What is going to become of this mask in the new series, and will it show up again? Personally, I think this will be the last that we hear of Norse mythology. I think the creators of God of War Ragnarok and the 2018 version said that this will be the final game focusing on Norse mythology. So it's very interesting to try and figure out where we might go next in this story. What other cultural mythology are we going to visit next? And there are so many different cultures that we can explore that would be so cool for God of War. Look, personally, I think this mask was placed into the story to follow on nicely to the next game. I think this game would have been absolutely fine without the mask if they would have found another reason for Loki to work with Odin. I think this mask is there because it's left on a cliffhanger. It's disappeared, so where's it gone? And this is the perfect way to lead into the next game and potentially say that it's ended up somewhere across the world in Egypt or something like that, where we can go to Egypt or teleport there or however we manage to get there, and then that's where we search for the mask and go from there. For me, it was massively intentional for that to happen at the end of the game as well, and it really tees up us being able to travel and gives us that open-ended story so we're not stuck in Midgard for the rest of God of War's time. Personally though, I really believe that the next game is going to be based somewhere around Egypt, just because it's the most logical step. The very first God of War 2018 was concepted to be based within Egypt, so if they did start production on it in some way or other, they've obviously got some assets for that there somewhere, so maybe that's it. They've got all the outfits designed already and stuff like that and concepted, so why not send us to Egypt? There's so many gods in Egyptian mythology which would be so cool. You've of course got the mystery of the pyramids as well, and all over around Egypt, around that area. There's so much you can do with that, and I really do believe that that may be where we could take it next, and maybe one half of the mask is teleported inside this massive pyramid. We have to go through the pyramid, all through the mines, all through the secrets. We see the pharaohs and things that are mummified and stuff. And then the other one is in some underground tunnel or some secret place. Look, there's so much possibility. It does get me a little bit excited thinking about it. But I have faith in the developers because they've made 2 absolutely fantastic games. I mean, look on screen right now at the list of different mythologies that we're able to maybe even explore in some capacity. There's so many different ones that the team have the ability to implement in some way or other, and yeah, there's endless opportunities really. Maybe the plot or the story of this can be that Odin stole this mask from the Egyptians early on, or another god stole it from Odin after he'd stolen it from Egypt due to its power and just sheer destruction that Odin could do with it. So he broken it and scattered it into 3 pieces across the 9 realms. And of course that was the reason. Odin found 1 piece, but the other 2 pieces were still hidden somewhere that he couldn't translate. And this god of course transcripted the mask in order to try and figure out where it might have been hidden, so to give secrets to whoever to do it. Look, this would be a really cool plot twist as well, that these 2 mythologies are in fact intertwining already in the backstory, and I think they need to do something like that for it to kind of make more sense. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Let me know your thoughts and your theories as well. Doesn't matter how crazy those theories might be. Leave everything you think down below in the comments, and I'd love to have a read of all of them as well. But how do you think the new story of the new game will shape? Do you think there will be DLC remaining in Norse mythology with Atreus? How do you think the God of War story from this point onwards is going to shape up? And what type of mythology do you think that the team at Santa Monica will base the story on next? But I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. Leave a like if you have, it'd be very much appreciated. Subscribe if you guys are brand new also. And without further ado, we'll see everyone in the next video.